Somewhere in the world, millions of people are drinking clean water. They turn on a tap, fill a glass, and drink without thinking twice. It's so normal that most of us never stop to appreciate it. But imagine living 10,000 years ago. No water filters, no pipes, no bottled water, no treatment plants, just rivers, lakes, streams, and muddy water holes shared with wild animals. In some places, a deer might drink from the water first. A wild boar could walk up a few minutes later. Then a wolf. And after that, a human would kneel down and drink from that exact same spot. Sounds disgusting, doesn't it? Which raises a fascinating question. If ancient humans drank dirty water every single day, why didn't they constantly get sick? Or maybe they did. And that's where this story becomes much more interesting than most people realize. Many people imagine ancient humans as incredibly tough survival experts, the kind of people who could eat anything, drink anything, and somehow never get sick. But that's not actually true. Ancient humans absolutely got sick. In fact, long before hospitals, antibiotics, and modern medicine existed, disease was one of the biggest killers in human history. And that makes the mystery even bigger. If dirty water was so dangerous, how did our ancestors survive long enough for us to be here today? The answer begins with something surprisingly simple. Not all water is equally dangerous. Imagine standing beside a cold mountain stream. The water is flowing, fresh, clear, constantly moving. Now compare that to a muddy pond where animals drink, bathe, and leave waste behind. Which one would you trust? Even without science, the answer feels obvious. And ancient humans slowly figured this out as well. They didn't know what bacteria were. They had never heard of germs. They had no microscopes, no laboratories, no scientific studies. But they were excellent observers. Over thousands of years, they noticed patterns. People who drank from certain water sources seemed to get sick more often. Others didn't. And little by little, generation after generation, humans began learning which water was safer. Flowing water was often preferred. Fresh springs were highly valued. And whenever possible, cleaner-looking water was chosen over stagnant pools. It wasn't science, at least not yet. It was experience. And experience can be one of the most powerful teachers of all. But that wasn't the only reason ancient humans survived. There was another factor at work. Unlike most people today, ancient humans lived their entire lives surrounded by nature. From the moment they were born, they were exposed to soil, plants, animals, and countless microorganisms living all around them. Some scientists believe that this constant exposure may have helped strengthen certain immune responses. Now, that doesn't mean ancient humans were immune to disease. Far from it. They still got sick. They still suffered infections. And many people still died. But their bodies were constantly interacting with the natural environment in ways that are much less common today. However, it's important not to misunderstand this. Dirty water was never truly safe. Throughout history, contaminated water caused enormous problems. Parasites, stomach infections, severe diarrhea, and countless other diseases spread through unsafe water. In fact, for most of human history, finding safe drinking water was one of humanity's greatest survival challenges. So how did people reduce the risk? Surprisingly, by paying attention. Humans are incredibly good at recognizing patterns. If several members of a group became sick after drinking from a particular pond, people started avoiding it. If a spring consistently provided better water, groups returned to it again and again. Over time, this knowledge became incredibly valuable. Parents taught their children, elders shared their experience, and survival knowledge was passed from one generation to the next. Slowly, without realizing it, humans were building a practical understanding of water safety. Then something changed. Human societies began growing. Small groups became villages. Villages became towns, and populations started increasing. At first, this seemed like progress, but it created a new problem. Water contamination became much more dangerous. When a small group drinks from a river, disease remains relatively limited. But when thousands of people live close together, one contaminated water source can affect entire communities. The old methods were no longer enough. Humanity needed a better solution. And that solution arrived surprisingly late. For most of history, nobody actually knew what caused disease. Many people believed sickness came from bad air. Others blamed curses. Some thought supernatural forces were responsible. But in the 19th century, everything began to change. Scientists discovered something revolutionary. Tiny living organisms, invisible to the naked eye, were responsible for many deadly diseases. For the first time, humanity understood why contaminated water could be so dangerous. And that discovery changed the world forever. Cities began improving sanitation systems. Water filtration became more advanced. Clean water was delivered directly to homes. And eventually, water treatment plants transformed public health across the globe. The results were extraordinary. People lived longer, child mortality dropped dramatically, and diseases that once killed millions became far less common. So, why didn't ancient humans get sick from dirty water? The truth is, they did, quite often. But they survived because they learned, they observed, they adapted. Long before they understood bacteria, they were already making choices that improved their chances of survival. The real story isn't that ancient humans were immune to dirty water. The real story is that they were intelligent enough to survive despite it. And every time you pour yourself a glass of clean water today, you're benefiting from thousands of years of human observation, experimentation, innovation, and survival. Something our ancestors could only dream of.